Hi, gang. Sad day. Sad day. Already a sad day because it's September 11. It is September 11, 2025, 24 years ago. My God, 24 years ago, I know exactly where I was and what I was doing, and I'm sure you do as well. And even within the events of the last 24 hours, the first thing I want to say is let's never forget the events of 24 years ago. I'm wearing my one of my many Steven Singer 9/11 Never Forget pins. This is the special 20th anniversary version. For 20 years, I would surrender this day's radio program, and we would do a commemoration of the events of September 11, 2001. The final version of that broadcast lives on. It's an extraordinary podcast. So much work went into it from yours truly, from TC, from Dan. Please do yourself a favor and listen to that podcast today. It's broken down 3 hours into 3 parts. The events leading up to September 11 with extraordinary guests. Jose Melendez Perez and Michael Toohey and Alice Hoagland and Kevin Flynn and others. And then the day of, Ben Sliney, the FAA National Ops Manager, his first day on the job. Aaron Brown at CNN, his first day on the job. Amazing. And then part 3 is the aftermath and includes interviews that I conducted with President Obama about the search for bin Laden. Anyway, special day. The podcast lives on. Please listen to it. Please listen to it. The poll question today at Smerconish.com: will the senseless killing of Charlie Kirk be a turning point toward lowering the temperature of our national debate? I've got lots of thoughts on that. Let me first thank my friends at Parks Casino. The stories and cigars with Smerconish 2.0 is sold out. Thank you for that. If you're going to be joining me in November, we'll have a great night together, tell some stories. A lot of them will be true, I promise. And of course, football is back. The Birds are a 1-point road favorite at Kansas City on Sunday in a big game, a rematch. The over-under is 46.5 points. Not sure how I feel about that. Saturday is also big, especially in these parts, because you've got Penn State playing Villanova, Temple playing Oklahoma. Big games for Temple and for Villanova in particular. You can live bet all the action, have some skin in the game. That's what I do. Download the app, open an account, and get up to $50 back on your first sports bet if it doesn't win. Plus, you'll get the BetParks bonus box with a 50 BetParks coin and 50 bonus spins on the BetParks Collect 'em online slot game. Enjoy the action, have skin in the game. That's what I do. For full terms and conditions, visit betparks.com. Bet college and pro football all season long with my team at BetParks. There's always another way for you to win. You got to be 21, located in PA or NJ. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So yesterday's poll question, I think this relates to today. I think it relates to the climate. I really do. In fact, I know that it does. Yesterday may have sounded odd if you didn't hear the discussion. Agree or disagree, leave Philly's Karen alone. 29,280 voted. That was a lot of votes on something that required explanation. And 61.39% of us, let's just say it broke 60-40, said, yeah, agree. Leave her alone. And if you were dialed in yesterday, you know the whole background that I made the observation in passing on radio that I'm stunned that Philly's Karen hasn't been identified, especially since we all got such a clear image of her in the video. And I wanted to know who she was and what brought that on. And then a series of callers were like, Michael, why? Why do you care? You know, you don't know what's going on in her world. And it kind of stopped me in my tracks. And I thought, wow, they're better people than I with regard to this incident. And there's really something to it. And by the way, in the newsletter today, there's a follow-up in USA Today. Charles Trepani wrote it, where he consulted with mental health experts for an explanation of why are we all so caught up in the Karen episode. A mental health expert, I thought, explained well Stephanie Sarkis is her name. A lot of people are feeling disenfranchised and feeling not counted, so said a psychotherapist. And to see that kind of injustice, the injustice of her taking that ball back from the father, that really hit home with a lot of people. I think there's something to that relates to the horrific events of yesterday in Utah. I really do. Society is sick. The nation is sick. I have strong feelings about it, and what transpired yesterday with Charlie Kirk's assassination doesn't alter one iota the things that I've been saying consistently on radio about what ails the nation and what it's going to take to bring us back. I'm asking whether the senseless killing is going to be a turning point. Yes, deliberate play on words from me, because that's the name of his organization, toward lowering the temperature of the national debate. And sadly, no is my answer. Sadly, no is my answer. Here's a snippet. Here's a snippet of me last night. I just wanted to watch. I just wanted to read. I just wanted to listen. And I just wanted to think as these events were all unspooling. I know where I was yesterday when I first heard the word. Initially, we weren't sure. We hadn't seen that god-awful video. And if you haven't seen it, don't go looking for it. I've seen it. I wish I could unwatch it. I just wanted to digest. And I try to exhibit some restraint in a case like this. I don't want my fingers to do all the talking in the social media world. And when I finally had something to say, I tweeted. And what I tweeted was this: I hoped this unspeakable tragedy would lower the nation's temperature. Watching television and perusing the internet, I was naive. I was naive because some people responded appropriately and many did not. And many still are not. And let me say something else that is true as of this moment in time that I'm saying these words, for those watching on YouTube and those who will listen to today's podcast. At this moment in time, stunningly, we don't know who did this. We do not know who did this. I think it's fair to call it a political assassination given the context. But people are leaping to all sort of conclusions. Do I have an idea in my head just based on past experience as to who the perpetrator will be when caught, when identified? I do, but I don't know for sure. And I don't want to get caught up in the business that we saw in the immediate aftermath, and I talked about it at the time, of Butler in that first assassination attempt on President Trump, when people were immediately jumping to conclusions, and they were wrong about the politics of the shooter in that case. The shooter in that case, when we finally learned, and obviously it was a mentally ill individual, who else would have climbed on that roof in Butler and tried to shoot a former president of the United States? But people were jumping to conclusions as to the politics and the political registration. And I remember the headlines, several of them, that were incorrect in that case. So we don't know in this case. You can presume it was a political assassination, and I think you can presume by somebody mentally ill. And I'll go a step further, probably with some training, 200 yards with a scope. I know some saying last night, not that difficult, but sadly it was pretty precise. Anyway, so I'm watching the back and forth. I'm watching the back and forth. And to be fair, my observation was liked by 500 people, but unliked by a lot of others. Why would you think, dumb motherfucker? We are at war. Fuck you, said another. Go fuck yourself. CNN is even worse than MSNBC with its poisonous anti-conservative propaganda. Your network is pathetic. It's amazing how many people associate me with CNN in this toxic environment and therefore think they know me. When those of you who watch me here on YouTube, listen to the podcast, most importantly, listen to the radio show, or watch me on CNN, just know how different my programming is then, frankly, everything, not just television, but radio as well. So these folks just, and I think this is telling. I think this is insightful as to the climate. Democrats do not follow God. They are cons. Oh, there was this. On the other hand, Michael, you have made a lot of money raising the temperature. That pissed me off. Yeah, that one got me. No. Michael sits behind this microphone for hours on end trying to build bridges, trying to put us together, trying to get us to mingle. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you something interesting. So last night, and there was much more to the reaction that I'll discuss on radio. Last night, I had a decision to make, and that is how much of today's radio program should change and now should be dedicated to speaking solely about Charlie Kirk. The first hour of the program, as of last night, was wide open because we don't know what the news cycle brings. In fact, today's poll question was intended to be about Kamala Harris because I wanted to parse the excerpt from her book that kind of broke yesterday while I was on air and the whole recklessness comment and so forth. I'd already written today's poll question. I had 3 different versions. But the first hour of the program was unscheduled, and the next 2 hours were scheduled as of last night. We can always move guests dependent upon breaking news. But I made a deliberate choice, and that is to stay the course and talk about Charlie Kirk in the first hour of today's program, but then to stay according to schedule. Do you know why? Because in the second hour of the program, we're going to talk about the educational disconnect among the populace and our elected officials. Alan Weissman is an associate provost at Vanderbilt, responsible for this new study about the educational divide among elected officials, which speaks to our societal disconnect. And the third hour of today's program, which I've really looked forward to, is to welcome back a guest who was last on my program, actually first on my program 18 years ago. Richard Louv, who wrote a book called Last Child in the Woods, which was prescient in terms of what has brought about the changes with our youth. I guess what I'm trying to say is this. I think that I see it all so clearly. And the events of the last 24 hours have not changed my view. They've only confirmed what I've been saying here for a period of years. And nothing about the identity, when we do know the identity, and I'm convinced we will know, I'm shocked that we don't already, is going to change my fundamental opinion. So are you ready for it? You've heard it before, but here it is. We are sick as a nation. We are frayed. We are fragmented in all aspects of life. We are polarized. We are isolated. We are lonely. Whatever the facts might be of this particular incident, it's in this context. It is a function of our having gone our own separate ways, made easier now by technology, raising kids who've never known an alternative except social lives that are tethered through the internet. It's fueling mental illness. We are devoid of common experience. And what we most need is engagement on an individual level so that we're reminded that we're in this together. And that's why next Wednesday, extra hours for extra credit, we'll gather on my YouTube channel and we'll talk about the Mingle Project. This is all Mingle related. It's all Mingle related. Whatever the individual facts might be of this horrific event, it's all Mingle related. So I wish Godspeed to Charlie Kirk's family. One other thing you might find interesting. Back in June, I did a commentary, you might remember it, where I said, hey, no matter what you think of him, back in June, Donald Trump is on a roll. And I made the case as to things that were going his way: immigration, the economy at the time, the tariffs, the economy hadn't collapsed as a result of the tariffs having been imposed, and just a number of things going his way. And I'm looking on my computer screen right now at Charlie Kirk, at Charlie Kirk 11, quote, honestly good for Smerconish, giving the president a fair shake. So he told his 5 million Twitter followers. And many of them then gave me props. And of course, many were just twisted and nasty and angry. I was thinking about that too. Okay, it's September 11. Let's please not forget, in the midst of all the grieving that's taking place about the events yesterday in Utah, let's not forget the events of 24 years ago. Stop, think about where you were, what you were doing, how it impacted your life, and remember the 3,000 that we lost. And Steven Singer, thank you. I'll never forget all the money you raised for 9/11 charities by selling these $10 pins to members of my radio audience and television audience. Okay, try and have a good day. I know, it's a tough one. Try and have a good day. Please join me next Wednesday night for a mingle gathering only for my YouTube page subscribers. So subscribe to my YouTube page. It costs you nothing. It costs you nothing. See you, gang.